Um, I think when it comes to cross collaboration or teamwork, that is definitely one of the hurdles that I see when building a one-stop shop. Sometimes there's a lot of pushback, right? Because when you're like, oh, you've been doing financial aid your whole life, now go learn registrar. And for example, my background is in ACE, Adult Continuing Education. I started in ACE first at LaGuardia, and then I got hired at Nest. And for me, learning financial aid, I was like, I was really nervous because
Mhm.
when it comes to federal policy and all these state regulations, when it comes to aid, things are always changing, especially with their
Right.
administration. So then I was like, you know what? I'm going to take a challenge. I told my director, I'm going to dip my toes in registrar, but we don't do no processing. Our one-stop shop really helps with paperwork, helping students understand what does it mean when you get a W? What does it mean when you withdraw and you're stuck with a balance? The processing happens in the back end with the registrar department. So from what you're telling me, just to train and just having everybody like have the same knowledge has been an issue. Now that you're in your current position, how would you address that when the one-stop shop is not, I guess, properly trained or they're struggling to learn to the new policies or information?
Training is definitely a key. So when I first came here, remember I came from the registrar's office.
Mhm.
So I had a very good structure set up at the college for the registrar's office. And the office that I still have 4 years later is still intact. And the person who oversees the registrar's office, she's pretty good, very, very good actually. She's one of the best in the CUNY system. And she's maintaining and she's making some process improvement. So there was no issue in the Panther station related to the register matters. And if you ask me among those three offices, admissions, register, and financial aid, their processing is the simplest, right? So, and we have a process here where the students come here. These are like 1 minute transaction. I want to change my major. Here's my form. We just go ahead and process. I need to change my name. Here's my document. We go ahead and do this. Now, in terms of admissions processing and financial aid processing, they are a bit complicated. So I see a line here always for admissions, a line here for financial aid office. So when I first came here, I realized that people don't have proper access, number one. Number two, people don't have the training. And number three, the structure that we had in place was not working. So the structure that we had in place is that students would come here and they would say, okay, I submitted my application, let's say, for admissions. I haven't heard back. And since they didn't have access and they didn't have the knowledge, they wouldn't be able to look up. They will just create an entry in our internal CRM system
Mhm.
for the admissions office to go and see what is wrong and then address that issue. And they were overwhelmed. So they could not get back to all of these cases that our people are creating from here for an escalation. And our people here felt helpless that, they are here. Some of them are willing to learn new things, but because they did not have access, they couldn't do it. So the first thing I did is that I decided that I would give them create template in CUNY first, so that anybody that we are hiring or anybody who we already have, they will have standard roles so that they are able to help at least view, understand, and help students with certain things. And that was not enough. And then people are like, okay, I had a student here a week ago and I already escalated this issue to admissions office, but no one responded to the student. And I didn't like that either. How can a week go by and the same student is coming back to me? And you guys are in the back end not seeing the students here. My people are struggling to deal with angry and irate students, and sometimes they're very rude and disrespectful, as you know, right? So I said, no,
Mhm.
no, that has to stop. So then I started a training program for our people. First, I targeted all our full-time people. And when I was doing that, I had some resistance from the full timers because people from financial aid, they're like, okay, we are beyond learning anything new. Uh, we are not going to learn anything new. We cannot learn anything new. I was pushing them, but at some point I realized that I'm just wasting my time. So to go around that, I hired a whole bunch of people, right? So first, I hired all part-timers, significant number of part-timers, and I trained them. They're all young. intentionally I hired college students, either BMCC students or students from other campuses. And when I saw some significant progress in terms of how we are able to serve the students, I continued with that. So now I have three-tiered training process and three-tiered staffing as well. All our new part-timers come here as a college assistant, standard regular college assistant that you're familiar with. Then once they are here for 3 to 6 months, once we observe them, once we see that they have the willingness and the capacity to learn more, do more, with a goal of being able to address at least 80% of admissions related matters, 100% of financial aid related, register related matters, and at least 25% of financial aid related matters, then we promote them. They get a little bit more money. We call them enrollment coach. So they
Mm.
are doing some of the processing on behalf of our admissions office. So right now, if you ask me, our people in the Panther Station, we're able to address 85 to 90% of all admissions related matters. And that's one of the main concerns that we had because students don't know. They need some guidance. They apply, they don't provide any documentation. They don't know that they can go back and follow the instructions using portal. Hey, I need to submit all of this documentation, or I need a translation or evaluation. So our people own them, guide them through the process, making the process really easy for our students mainly, and that helps our admissions office as well. So that's basically on the part-time level. And people who are functioning very well as a part-timers, as an enrollment coach, not college assistant. Remember, college assistants are promoted to an enrollment coach, and I got approval to hire 4 full-time lines here because our enrollment was doing great. We were doing some good work, and they saw it, recognized it, and they asked me, "What do you need?" And I said, "I need full-timers because retention was a major problem with the part-timers. I have 40 part-timers, and it's a revolving door. People come here, and I invest so much giving them access, training them for 3 months, and 6 months later they leave. I don't want that. I want to keep them as long as I can. So I have 4 lines approved, and people from the enrollment coaches, I promoted them to become assistant to higher education officer initially, 4 of them, and I got 2 subsequent lines related to New York State opportunity problems. So now I have 6. And the goal for me is the assistant to higher education officers, I want to promote them to assistant higher education assistants at least, right? So the structure right now in the Panther Station is that I have 2 teams. I have 2 associate directors overseeing those 2 teams, and one person is focusing mainly on financial aid related matters and TAP and anything related to NISOP and Excelsior. And the other associate director is responsible for both admissions and registrar. Right. And then we have this common understanding that we are going to function as one team. Even though they are on the back end office, I wanted to remove some of the barriers that we have in between us, our offices, because, we have our own identity, they have their own identity. But when it comes to serving our students, we are one team. Our goal is to help the students get the student through from the admissions to enrollment, making sure that they are able to apply for financial aid. So during peak, I ask people from the admissions office and registrar and financial aid that the people that I have over here, we don't have enough here to see all the students because they're not seeing students. Everybody's coming here for all 3 offices. And if you visit Cindy BMCC, you'll see that rarely there is a line for in the Panther Station, whereas before every single office had a line. So, we utilize some tools that we have to facilitate movement of the students. So if a student is coming here saying that I want to withdraw from my classes, obviously that's a registrar transaction, as you know, but it has an impact on their ability to retain their financial aid. So because we have both financial aid team and the registrar here, the registrar person can advise the student on what is the best course of action and what will be the impact if they end up withdrawing from the course. So it's working out very well. Right now, we meet every week. It's a team meeting that we have among the admissions and Panther Station. and also financial aid and the Panther Station people. And we also have 1 hour weekly training every Friday from 9 to 10. And that's the time that we use mainly for professional development and, for updates. Like, as you said before, financial aid, the rules are always changing, and I want to make sure that, when our people are in front of the students providing them instructions and information, they are providing accurate information.
No, yeah, that's really true. You actually touched a really good point. The NISAP program with Governor Hochul promoting free community colleges. I wanted to ask you, how is your team handling the influx of students? Because
Mhm.
I know for LaGuardia, since we do I think they call it the 12-6, because we include session 1 and 2 together for the
Mhm.
fall and spring semester. We had a lot of students. Our enrollment, and I believe our retention also went up. I don't remember the exact number, but we had so many students coming in. And since it's a really new program and just learning the process of making sure that they're NISAP eligible, how did your team handle the influx of students? And what was the student population that you were seeing? For example, in LaGuardia, we saw a lot of adult learners, like adults